Hey y'all, it's Cyber Sam. Let's teach tech. Just wrapping up my first day back at school in professional development. Lots of thoughts, lots of excitement, lots of overwhelm as I take a deep breath. A lot of new people in our building, a lot of new initiatives, and thankfully they gave us this afternoon to work in our rooms. So I'm back in my room just kind of reflecting on the day, and like many of you, just kind of trying to think about how I can prioritize my time. We've got a few days of PD, and we have about half days to prep versus half days to go to meetings. Thankfully, I'm not in meetings for 3 straight days or anything. 2 big takeaways. One was we talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset and did an activity with that, and thinking about how I could apply or even use that same activity with my students to make sure that they have they feel some control over their learning, along with that student agency. And the idea there is making sure that we're giving students choice. So one of the big takeaways with growth mindset is that if you believe your brain can change, then you behave that way, as opposed to a fixed mindset where we're thinking, if I fail, then I quit because I'm just not good at this. So addressing this at the beginning of the school year, I think, is an awesome idea. I'm planning on coming up with an activity, if not the same activity I did as a staff, to address this idea, to make sure students are continuing to think about how motivation works, how they can be successful in my classroom, and so on. As I was talking with teachers, they brought up, making sure as teachers we are giving examples in real life when we fail, or just pointing it out in class when we fail. I think about the dialogue and what we say to students. Are we giving them positive comments and encouraging them, versus just pointing out the faults and the mistakes they're making, and think about how that affects their dialogue? We want to encourage them, we want to keep them positive, and thinking about maybe we don't understand it yet being a big key word when it comes to growth mindset. We also talked about student agency. So the idea of having students have choice in our classroom. Are we giving them time to set their own goals in our class? Are we giving them time to ask questions? Are we giving them time to self-monitor? Are we giving them metacognitive activities? We want to have them have a sense of control. That's something I shared with my teachers, that I struggle with this because in the programming classes I teach, there's a little more agency. They can do more of a project that they choose, things like that. And a lot of my teachers in my building have projects where students have choice of, they have tight restrictions on what the project might entail, but they have other loose criteria that students can choose from. In some of my other classes where we're talking about how to configure a networking device, for instance, or troubleshoot and fix a problem with hardware or software, that might be more of a procedural process. And how can I build in student agency where they have more control in some of those projects or those assessments? So that's a challenge I have for myself. And if you have ideas on that, I would love to hear them. And putting this all together, when students have their own choices, when students have that growth mindset, we can get ourselves away from having to spoon feed and do step by step by step. Teacher, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? It can get us to the place where we want our students to be, where they can troubleshoot their own problems, and they can be happy with the process, not just the product. Using some of the words I learned from what we read in our PD, that growth mindsets helps students enjoy the effort. It helps them welcome struggle, and helps them understand that innovation requires failure. So when we add that agency with that growth mindset, students can get to that place we want them to be, where they're self-sufficient and they're able to solve the problems and challenges that we have in our programs. Another big takeaway is that for the first time in 21 years or 20 years of teaching, we have a plan for our building. So the big categories we have are the 5-year strategic plan is what this is getting our students career ready, building student efficacy, building teacher efficacy, improving our curriculum and formalizing it, and then just building the climate and culture for all the stakeholders. Really excited about this. I've been a part of the instructional leadership team for our building that created these goals for the 5-year strategic plan. We've used SMART goals, so they are measurable, they're time-based, and other SMART things that I don't remember off the top of my head. So this is the first time I've ever been in a building where I knew where the ship is going, where we're pointing the boat, and I'm really, really excited about this. Also very overwhelmed because I've made progress in all these areas, but I've got a long ways to go. Especially in my world, I've got to formalize my curriculum based on the template that they want us to use, and I can always improve my, obviously my teaching efficacy, student efficacy, and I do have certifications in my program, but I do want to increase, of course, the percentage of students who pass these certifications. So really, really excited about this, really overwhelmed. We've got a good plan though. We have instructional coaches, we have new curriculum personnel that are going to help us. So curious where you're at in your first days of professional development. Do you feel like you have a plan for your school year? Are you getting the supports in your program or in your, whether you're teaching K-12 or higher ed, do you have the people to support you? If not, are there other people you can reach out to that maybe you're not even aware of? That's part of the problem that we're fixing in our building, is just having the resources, maybe in a one-pager. Who can I go to for ESL, trying to communicate with families at home, or special ed accommodation issues, IEPs, 504 plans, things like that. Who's my go-to people? And when I have to search hard for that, that's a problem. So what are your struggles? What are you excited about? How's your year starting out? So I wanted to share where I'm at with the first day of our PD, and I'll keep sharing with you as we go along at the beginning of the year. All right, this is Cyber Sam with Let's Teach Tech. We'll see you next time.